If you ask a simple question, how much do Chinese farmers really earn? You might expect a simple answer. But China has a talent for making simple questions slightly more complicated. That is not a bug. That is basically the operating system. When many people imagine farmers in China, they often picture one of two things. One picture is very poor villages, old houses, and people living almost entirely from the land. The other picture is a more modern countryside, with smartphones, online shopping, delivery stations, live stream selling, and mobile payments. Both pictures can be true, but neither one is complete. The real question is not just, how much money does a farmer make from farming? The better question is, where does a rural family as money actually come from? Because in today's China, many rural families do not live only from farming. Some people still grow crops, some raise animals, some run small shops, some work in nearby towns, some leave the village and work in cities. Some older people stay in the village while their children earn money somewhere else. So, if we want to understand farmer income in China, we have to look at the whole household, not just the field. Let's start with the official number. According to public data from China's National Bureau of Statistics, in 2025, the per capita disposable income of rural residents was 24,456 yuan. The median was 20,711 yuan. For comparison, the per capita disposable income of urban residents was 56,500 yuan. So, what does that mean? First, rural incomes are still rising. In 2025, rural per capita disposable income grew by 5.8% in nominal terms, or 6.0% after adjusting for prices. Second, the gap between urban and rural China is still very real. The official urban-rural income ratio in 2025 was 0.31. In plain English, people living in cities still had much higher average disposable income than people living in rural areas. But here is the important part. Disposable income does not mean a farmer's salary. It also does not mean how much money someone made by selling rice, corn, fruit, or vegetables. It includes different kinds of income: wages, business income, property income, and transfers such as pensions, subsidies, or support from family members. So when you hear the number for rural income, don't imagine one farmer standing in a field with one crop and one paycheck. Imagine a household with several small streams of money. One stream may come from farming. Another may come from a son working in construction. Another may come from a daughter working in a factory. Another may come from a small shop, a pension, or a local job in the county town. That is how many rural families actually work. And this brings us to one of the biggest things outsiders often miss. For many rural Chinese families, the most stable cash income does not come from the land. It comes from labor. In 2025, China had 301.15 million migrant workers. According to the National Bureau of Statistics, about 180.06 million worked away from their hometowns, 121 million worked locally. The average monthly income of migrant workers was 5,075 yuan. That number matters because it tells us something very important about rural life. Many people with rural roots earn their money outside agriculture. They may work in construction, restaurants, factories, delivery, home decoration, small businesses, or service jobs in towns and cities. This is why rural China can look confusing from the outside. You may see an older person still farming a small plot of land. You may see a simple house. You may see a village road, a small shop, and a few old people sitting outside. But the household income may be connected to a city hundreds of kilometers away. The village looks quiet. The money may be moving through people who are not there. That is one reason why rural China is hard to explain in one sentence, which is annoying, because the internet really loves one-sentence answers. Now, what about farming itself? Farming still matters. A lot. It gives families food, land, security, and the connection to home. In many villages, People still grow grain, vegetables, fruit, tea, or raise animals. Some families do well, especially if they have larger operations, good products, access to markets, or a strong local industry. But small-scale farming is not always a high-income business. The price of farm products can change. Weather can change, labor costs can rise, transport costs can matter. Market demand can move quickly. Growing something is one thing. Selling it at a good price is another. According to the 2025 National Statistical Communique, producer prices for farm products in China fell by 3.7% that year. This does not mean every farmer lost money, but it does show why farm income can be unstable. If prices fall, a family may work just as hard but earn less than expected. For a large company, price changes are a business problem. For a small farmer, they can become a family problem. This is why many rural households try not to depend on only one income source. Farming may be the base. Wage work may provide cash. A small business may add something extra. Pensions or family support may help older people. It is not always comfortable, but it is practical. Now let's talk about spending. Income alone does not tell the whole story. You also have to ask, what does the money need to pay for? In 2025, rural residents' per capita consumption expenditure was 20,259 yuan, according to the National Bureau of Statistics. Compare that with rural per capita disposable income of 24,456 yuan. This does not mean every rural person spends the same amount. It also does not describe every household, but it gives us a basic idea. Rural life may cost less than urban life in some ways, but it is not free. Money goes to food, housing, repairs, transport, mobile phones, education, medical care, weddings, funerals, farming inputs, and support for older family members. And some of these costs can be heavy. If a family has a child in school, an older parent who needs medicine, or a house that needs repair, the budget can become tight very quickly. This is why a rural household can look stable, but still feel financial pressure. They may have a smartphone. They may use mobile payment. They may receive packages from online shopping. They may ride an electric scooter. But they may still think carefully before spending money on healthcare, education, or a major family event. Modern tools do not automatically mean high income. They often mean better access. And access is important. Roads, mobile internet, delivery networks, and e-commerce have changed many parts of rural life. Some farmers can sell products farther than before. Some villages are better connected to towns and cities. Some young people can find work or business opportunities more easily. That is the better side of the story. Rural income has grown. Rural infrastructure has improved. Many families have more choices than they had a generation ago. But there is also a difficult side. The urban-rural income gap is still clear. Farming income can be unstable. Many families depend on migrant work, which can be affected by the economy, health, age, and job availability. Older villagers may have limited income sources, and averages hide a lot. Some rural households earn much more than the national rural average. Others earn much less. A village near a wealthy coastal city is not the same as a remote mountain village. A family growing high-value fruit is not the same as a family growing grain on a small plot. A household with two working adults is not the same as one with only older people at home. So when people ask, are Chinese farmers poor? The honest answer is, some are still under real pressure. Some are doing better than outsiders may expect. Many are somewhere in the middle. They are not frozen in the past, but they are not living the same life as urban middle-class families either. This middle space is where rural China becomes interesting. It is a place where a farmer may use a smartphone but still worry about crop prices, where a family may receive online packages but still depend on a son's wages from another city, where a village may have better roads than before but fewer young people living there full-time, where income has grown but life still requires careful planning. So, how much do Chinese farmers really earn? The closest official answer is this. In 2025, rural residents in China had a per capita disposable income of 24,456 yuan, with a median of 20,711 yuan. But the real answer is bigger than that number. It depends on where the family lies, what they grow, whether someone works outside the village, how many older people they support, whether there are children in school, and whether they face medical costs. For many rural families, income is not one big paycheck. It is several small streams pieced together. Farming, wage work, small business, pensions, family support. Sometimes it works well, sometimes it is fragile. And that may be the most honest way to understand rural income in China. Not as a simple story of poverty, not as a simple story of success, but as a careful, practical, mixed reality. If you want to understand rural China, don't only look at the house. Don't only look at the smartphone. Look at where the money comes from. That is where the real story begins.